Tina, we're going to talk the importance of a compelling brand story today. And
Mhm.
apparently, did some reading. Somebody gave me some notes.
Who's
55%
that? Who's that? Who gave you notes?
55% of consumers are more likely to buy a brand. I'm sorry, are likely to buy from a brand that tells a compelling story. That's the source of head stream. Tina, let's lean into today for business and branding this idea of building trust through authentic storytelling. Where do you want to start?
I think for me is first I want to debunk what storytelling is and
Mhm,
storytelling is not, because I think there's been a lot of confusion in, let's just go with content. We'll start with that, of
mhm.
what actually is authentic storytelling. First and foremost, I want to say what storytelling is not. Storytelling is not trauma spilling. It is not showing up and giving your audience uncharted access to every single bit of your story because they're entitled to it. Nobody is entitled to any part of your story. The second part is if you want to tell your story and you want to leave elements out of it, do it. I firmly believe I have worked with NBA All Stars and I've worked with roof lifters. And I promise you, I can make a compelling story out of both, equally out of both. And so I want to establish that because I want to give people that insight of this is not about showing up, being your most vulnerable self at all times, sharing all the dirt, because there's a lot of energy and emotion that has to come with that if you're showing up in these spaces and doing that every day. It's a matter of understanding your story and figuring out how to move forward with it. Give me your thoughts, Keith.
No, I'm going to float back to you, but because I want to throw it this way, Christina. But what does it all mean? So, and I'm
Mhm.
going to throw that out there because we've been talking all week around personal story and personal brand. What does it mean, though? Okay, I guess what I'm asking you is, don't just throw everything out. It's not just a "woe is me, this is my story." I'm only going to tell you this. I'm only going to tell you this. I'm going to package it up into a little box and share that with you. But to the entrepreneur and the small business owner right now who's talking about creating authentic stories,
Mhm.
the roof
How the fuck
lifter,
do you do
yeah,
what
it's
do
what
you
the
what even is that?
exactly what the hell
Right.
does that mean, Christina?
So when you think about storytelling, you want to think about creating connection with your audience. In
Mhm,
order to be able to create connection with your audience, you need to know who is your audience. Who are the
mhm,
people that you're trying to reach? And once you know who you're trying to reach, you're able to gather and be more empathetic, or at least you should be gathering insights as to what are their problems and what are their challenges. From there, you're able to say, great, based on what I know and what my story is, meaning my unique skills, expertise, and experiences, this is now the value that I can offer back to somebody based in real life proof. The real life proof, so the value I'm talking about is I can say, for example, with the brand bite, I could say, these are the top 4 things that you should be doing with your content to make them story driven. I can say that,
mhm.
but you and I both know I could write that with AI, no problem, in a matter of minutes. Where it becomes more compelling and where I become differentiated is say, these are the ways that I have used story in my brand, or these are the top 4 things that I have used and I have learned based on my unique skills and experiences. So to me, story is the proof points that back up the value I'm trying to offer and prove to people that I'm actually somebody that can solve their problems and challenges versus just saying a bunch of bullshit, quite frankly.
So the key is the I, is what you're saying, because
The key
we
is the eye.
right. So we as humans have been conditioned to buy from brands, corporate brands. We
Mhm.
all know that those brands have stories attached to them. What you're saying, I think, if what I'm hearing you correctly, Christina, is in a world of personal brands, it's now important for that roofer to confidently tell his story so that he can find an audience that relates to his values, relates to his experiences, relates to his purpose,
Mhm.
so that they can go, oh, I like Joe the roofer. He's like me. I want to go and work with Joe. Oh, Joe's been through, maybe Joe shares that he's been through divorce. Maybe Joe shared that he started from nothing and built it into something and sold something. But what you're saying, Christine, is those little micro moments, or maybe something like myself, dropping little tidbits of my story along the way. Somebody go, oh, so Keith's been in business before. So that's what you're saying, Christina, right? Which is making those I moments linked to experience so that you as a potential buyer can go, oh, I'm like that guy. Oh, I'm like that girl. I want to learn more. Is that what you're saying, Christina?
Yeah, people want to buy from people, and we have been conditioned to buy from corporations, but we've also
Yes.
learned that we can't always trust corporations, and you can't always
Yes.
trust anyone, period. So, what you're trying to do is you're trying to establish trust and you're trying to establish greater connection between you and your audience. We've talked about this. This is very much so not my opinion. This is based in neuroscience. And there's
Yes.
a couple elements to look at. When you talk about facts and figures, two areas of your brain lights up, or two areas of your audience's brain lights up: processing and comprehension. All they're trying to do is take the information in and go, okay, what are they actually saying? They're processing it. When I tell a story, it lights up upwards of six areas of your audience's brain. And the reason for that is because it leans on memory and emotion. And of course, the processing and comprehension is there, but all of a sudden, they are doing something called mirroring that is actually your experience becomes their experience. So if you say divorce, even just saying, I was divorced, your audience member is going, "Oh, interesting. I'm also divorced." When they
Connection
think
point.
about their divorce,
Mm,
they're going, "Oh, he's just like me," or "Fuck, my parents divorced," or "Wow, I didn't know that about him. That's interesting." Like, I'm not just taking in information and saying, "What does this title mean?" I'm saying, "How does that apply to me?" Because our brains are wired for that. That's evolutionary biology.
that's interesting, Christina, because that's like when I hear you say that in a third party way, because I'm the example in the situation, the divorce example. But when I'm hearing you speak to it, it's like hearing a song, isn't it? And relating to lyrics and playing that song over in your head, going, "Oh, I relate to that." And you lean into the song, what you're saying is the same thing to a business person or to somebody who's looking to establish their personal brand. That's what you're saying, isn't it,
Yeah,
Christina?
and let's
Find
let's look at
connection
this:
points, right?
business and athletes. We talk about it. The
Mm-hmm,
perfect way to exemplify this example is sitting down and watching, let's say, an NBA game.
hmm,
You have 2 different commentators and 2 different broadcasters on. You have
hmm.
somebody that does the play-by-play that is talking about what is happening on the court and when, who is moving where, facts and figures.
Yes.
Then you have somebody that does color commentary that comes in with story. So not only are there 10
Mm,
people on the court moving around in different position, there are now 10 people on the court who have their own life experiences that all of a sudden I'm connecting to in a different way. The NBA does this really well. They tell you the
yes.
behind the scenes. In the commercial breaks, I'm getting interviews about them and what they do and their families. If they just kept it to what was on the court, they would limit the audience to only those people that know what's happening on the court. But instead, my mom can watch basketball and really enjoy it because she gets connected to whatever, a Kyle Lowry or a DeMar DeRozan, because she learns about them as humans. She cares about
Mhm.
them. It's not just the plays.
WWE, UFC, they do a great job telling stories with their characters. So
Totally.
I got goosebumps listening to you talk because now it's really clicking for me. Because when you said the NBA, but we growing up here in Canada, here hockey dad hockey, nobody could argue the NHL does a poor job telling stories when you compare it to NFL and NBA. So when I hear you say that, I'm like, that makes sense to me because I'm not an NBA fan, but I know the stories of a lot of players because they do a good job telling them. Same with the
And
NFL. And
And they train. So the NBA and the NFL, two great storytelling leagues, they are
yes,
training those athletes in terms of media preparation on what to do. The NHL arguably does a horrible job training.
yes,
So when we're even interviewing them, we're getting
yes,
a robotic response. Like
yes,
their
yes,
on camera response is very robotic. It's very much boundaried. We get the
yes,
same thing from almost
yes,
every player. It's boring. So
yes.
that's a perfect example. I love story. I do not like watching the NHL
I
because I
agree.
don't feel
Yeah,
connected to it. I
at
don't
all.
feel, and I don't really care about the game, but I don't have to care about the game if you're telling me the stories that allow me to connect with people, but you're not doing that.
Okay, so you hear Business and Branding with Keith and Kristina here. The last segment of our show, we talk business, we talk branding. I got a contrarian side for you, Tina. All right. I guess I'm
Bring
gonna
it.
throw ball you. All right. So almost 40% of businesses fail to tell a coherent brand story. What the hell is coherent? A very simple, coherent brand story, leading to customer confusion, looking around everywhere, wondering what the hell. So some would argue, Tina, that not every business needs a carefully crafted narrative. I'm just a roofer, Kristina. I don't need some brand story. What the hell is brand story thing? I don't need one, Kristina. I'm David Sowers, Royal Restrooms. I don't need a brand story. Tell me.
No, you don't need a brand story. I'm not going to
Mm,
force anyone to tell a story. But if you want to drive revenue and you want to connect with people on less of a transactional level and more on a relationship level, you want to develop a relationship that's long-standing and sustainable over time. My argument is, yeah, you better. Because otherwise, you're going to be so focused on trying to get the next client to keep your funnel full versus your audience being really connected to you and what you offer so that they will buy anything you fucking put out there because they want to support you.
yeah.
It's not always about the product.
Interesting, because perhaps we have to look no further, Kristina, than the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL and compare. And to Mr. Roofer, to Mr. Electrician, to Mr. or Mrs. Business owner that doesn't feel like they need a brand story,
Hmm.
ask yourself, do you want to be like the NBA, the NHL, or the NFL? Right? Because there's a very clear difference on what works and what's not working in those spaces. And
Well,
and almost what I'm hearing you say too is that storytelling is as much sales for the next generation,
100% sales.
because that's what it
That's
is,
why
right?
I
Because
don't think it is trauma spilling. That's why when
no,
everyone thinks about it, they're like,
yes,
I'm not that interesting, is what people think. Of course, you can't see yourself for the way that other people see you. And there's a ton of examples, and that's also neuroscience. But there is a compelling story there. And with story, we want to be able to do two things. We want to be able to connect with the people that we believe our story resonates with, but we also want to repel the people that I don't resonate with. For example, in my story, I don't talk a ton about being queer, but I put it out there because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste yours. If you're never going to buy from me because you don't like queer people, fucking tell me now and go to a different page. Stop wasting my time. So I end every post with, if you like this and you aren't afraid of queer people, hit me up in this way. And then I do my CTA because I want there to be no questions about my identity. And I want to get you out of my funnel if you don't belong there. So that is also a mechanism for you to repel the audience that is never going to buy from you in the first place and not waste your time.
that's awesome. Wow, that's powerful stuff, Kristina. You know what? Maybe I'm going to bring this segment to a close by bringing up, I think, one of the greatest business cases over the last 10 years that I think will be studied and studied around product market fit and around storytelling. I think perhaps I'm not a fan of her music for the most part because I'm not in her product market fit, but Taylor Swift is the ultimate product market fit for, you're my audience, you're not my audience. If you don't like me, go somewhere else. She's the
Mhm.
ultimate storyteller because she connects with her audience and she knows who her audience is, her audience, and her audience knows who she is. And just like you've just said, if you don't like the fact that I'm queer, go somebody else. And it's the same thing that
Yep.
Taylor has done with her product market fit. I think it's a great case study there. Kristina, comments on Taylor Swift's the product market fit storytelling as we wrap up the segment.
A story that actually made me fall in love, not fall in love, really respect Taylor Swift. My kid, fucking 5 years old, doesn't even know who Taylor Swift is and asked me if I was a Swiftie the other day. That's the power of branding. I was like,
Yes.
bitch, you don't even know what a Swiftie is. You know, you're 5 years old. We don't listen to her in the house. But anyways,
Did you just
that's
say
for
bitch
another
don't
day.
even know what she is?
Yes. Sometimes I say that about my kids.
Oh, I
But
love it. That's
sincerely,
awesome.
it's cute.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, of
cute. I
course.
know. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm gonna get
yes.
canceled for that one. For sure. Anyways, A story though made me really respect Taylor Swift, and it was a story of the first time that she was ever on SNL, and Lorne Michaels was telling the story, and he said, we obviously open up the show with a monologue, and
Mhm.
we in the background as creators, we come up with that monologue, and it's collaborative, but we come up with it, and then the presenter or the guest for that week ends up giving the monologues. Taylor Swift showed up to the first time ever on SNL with the belief that everyone created their own monologue. And she had done her own song and her own monologue, and it killed, it crushed. And he was like, what the fuck? Like the effort that it took, and then the assumption that something was the way it was, but then not clarifying it, especially from a talent perspective, and being like, oh, I'm going to write my own song, then I'll do a monologue because that's what people do. Then to have it crush, I was just like, unbelievable. Like that to me connects me on a different level because I've got a lot of respect then for how she operates and the talent that she brings to the table.
Yeah. You're talking business and branding. Keith and Kristina Flynn here. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends, wrapping up the show here today. Our 2-hour segment is wrapping it up. And it's time to go. Weekends around us. I'm just going to remind you guys, if you are a business looking to learn how to be an athlete, you're on the right show. If you're an athlete looking to learn about business, you are on the right show. I encourage you. I'm going to remind you, and I'm going to ask you. Yeah, true story. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, or comment, share it with your friends. Tell people you've discovered this wonderful show to help you guys get going in the mornings. We're going to be back on Monday. Tina, what do we got on Monday next week? I haven't looked at the calendar admittedly yet. Do we have a guest on Monday?
Shit, I haven't either.
Yeah.
Busted.
Hey,
Yeah.
so we are building the airplane as we fly here, so you guys know that. And I know you business guys are like, yeah, I haven't thought about Monday yet, so we're just keeping it real. So we're gonna get back to it, and I got a lift to get to before we get the rest of the day going on here and around the corner here. But I'm gonna leave us with this. Yeah, there's that sound effect, Tina. Let's get out of here. Good show, kid. Did you have a good birthday yesterday?
Oh, so good. I got
Yeah.
to interview my best friend on stage at a tech conference. I love being on stage. I love hanging with her. And then I come home and my wife had surprised me with a bunch of my friends here for dinner, even though she's leaving to go on business in Chicago and already left this morning. Like, talk about being the luckiest person of all. But yeah,
Awesome.
great birthday. Excited to chill with just the kiddos this weekend. It's going to be good. It's a great fucking week of shows too. So I feel really
It was
great.
a great week of shows. Great week of shows. Great week of momentum. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Mornings in the Live with Keith and Friends. Take care, Tina. Later.
Later.